Hi, this video is kind of going out to all the polyglots out there. This will be the first video that I've ever posted up on YouTube, so it'll be a bit of an adventure for me as well as you. But I kind of wanted to address some of the issues, give a shout out to Moses McCormick, otherwise known as Lau, for 55,000, or Los 55,000. He's on this Moses is on this mission to learn as many languages as possible, and he kind of relayed a kind of past life circumstances which inspired him to do this, to pursue this, because it was one of the few things that he thought he was really good at, learning languages. So he's on this mission to become a polyglot right now, and one of the few things that he's done, he originally was going to start out with Cantonese, a dialect of Chinese, but he first did Mandarin, and he seems to be the most advanced in that so far, and it's very impressive. His Mandarin is really, really quite good, and most people can understand him, which is, pretty impressive. It's one of the language. Mandarin is one of those. It's a tough language. It has. I mean, to look at the writing. I mean, everyone knows that Chinese writing is a real challenge. And I thought that I kind of wanted to touch up on some issues, going over why some people think that Chinese is so hard. I mean, I think a lot of people who ask me under the assumption that there's some sort of like there are of course similarities between all the different natural languages in the world. But the way that Chinese think, and the way that Chinese is structured, is very, very different than the way that most Westerners would construct sentences in a language. What a lot of people don't know is that Chinese is very metaphorical, and you wouldn't say things as you would literally say them over in English. It's kind of a lot like the way that English people, or people who speak English, excuse me, like in America we tend to use a lot of idiom and metaphor. A lot of that in Chinese too, but it's slightly different structured, and it relates to Confucianism and economics and other aspects of culture. That's one reason why the language is so tough. Another reason is just strictly pragmatics. Chinese, most of the dialects of Chinese, so far as I know, make extremely heavy use of tones, and tones in English are used at a minimum to imply sometimes meaning, impliciture. They imply things, but they're not crucial to convey meaning. Whereas in Chinese, you cannot have a conversation without saying things properly and paying homage to the tones. Let's see. I decided also to write down a couple of, make a list of some of the consonants, just the consonants, mind you, that appear in Cantonese, a dialect of Chinese, Cantonese, but not in English. And here it is. See, English consonants and vowels not found in Cantonese. So right there on the left you see the IPAs, and then you see the English equivalents. So you got, SH, sh, you got the voiced, G sound, germs, zoo, thick, venue, this, I mean, the V sound, for example. The V sound doesn't occur in Cantonese, the TH sound doesn't occur in Cantonese, Z and J kind of don't occur in Cantonese, SH, and of course R, everyone's favorite, R, flied lice. That's, the reason Cantonese can't, say fried rice is because R doesn't occur, I mean, in Cantonese, and anywhere. So it's a completely alien sound, and of course there are a couple of sounds that occur in Cantonese that don't occur in English. But really, I think what kind of trips people up when they're trying to learn Chinese, if they come from a non-tonal background, are exactly that, the tones. These examples here are just, are just Cantonese. Can you imagine what they might be like for other dialects like Mandarin or Taishanese or Fuking or Qiuzawa, or the dialects from that region? It gets really kind of hairy. I mean, and this is a great example of why Shanghainese is usually, excuse me, not Shanghainese, but Cantonese always ends up being the comedic language people always tend to make fun of Cantonese people, because we do, they do tend to sound kind of funny. Russell Peters. So that kind of gives you some idea. Chinese, being a logographic language, doesn't come with an alphabet. So if you come across a Chinese character and you don't know how to pronounce it, you're hosed. There's no way that you can spell it out. So because of that, since there is really no way to spell it out, I mean, you pretty much have to remember every single character by rote or by context. I mean, to help you out. And of course there are some languages too where if you do have an alphabet, there's kind of a one-to-one relationship between a word, the way it's pronounced, and the way it's spelled. Like German, for example. If you want to say a particular word, Zehn, there's only one way to spell that, Z-E-H-N, and that's the way you spell it. Whereas in English you have single spellings but multiple pronunciations: read, read, conflict, conflict, intimate, Polish, that kind of stuff. Chinese is it's a little bit different than the Germanic and Latin languages in that sense. And also, the Chinese equivalent of spelling is if you forget a couple of strokes here and there, you might end up with a word. In the best case scenario, you end up with a word or a character that doesn't exist, and in the worst case scenario, you end up with a character, although this would rarely happen, that just changes the meaning completely. So that was some of the points that I kind of wanted to go over. Chinese is actually it's really true. When people say it's a tough language, it's a tough language mostly because the mechanics of the language are just so alien to people in the West. In my opinion, it's not really what I would call an efficient language. It takes forever to write something that would only take someone an English speaker or someone who's very familiar with the Latin alphabet just seconds to write, because it's a cryptographic language. So you spend all your time just writing these stupid strokes, 30-something strokes, just to write, like apple or something, or name of a city. So it's conducting science, for example, in Chinese, in traditional Chinese, is just horrendous. And but although I at the same time have a very, very low opinion of the so-called simplified Chinese, it aesthetically doesn't look very pleasing to the eye. And not only that, the Cultural Revolution. So, it was originally traditional Chinese was pretty much thrown out the window in place of New Chinese to try and increase the literacy rates in China, but that didn't seem to work very well. So it didn't really end up with its intended consequences. Let's see. I kind of wanted to close out here by going over a couple of books that I thought that Moses. Usually Moses in some of his programs, he usually tends to go over some books that he gives opinions about what kind of books are actually useful in his studies of languages. In this case, I have a couple of them for Chinese. Some of you might not know this, but this one, Colloquial Cantonese and Putonghua equivalents. Putonghua equivalents. Mandarin and Cantonese, they're dialects of Chinese, but they may as well be considered separate languages. It's kind of like Hunanese and Cantonese. They're mutually unintelligible with each other. If you have a person from Glasgow come over to America and speak, yeah, that's a dialect of English. At least you can more or less understand him. Some dialects in Chinese, although they are Chinese, they are so separate and disparate from each other that if you spoke it fluently, you would not be able to understand the other one. unless you actually knew it. This is a pretty good book here. It kind of gives you equivalence between the two different languages. YK, I mean, it's okay, that's pretty good. And then in other here, they give you the Chinese equivalent in writing right there. You know, it's okay basically means to play chess in Cantonese, and as for the Mandarin, well, I can't read that. Xiaqi, I guess. Xiaqi. So this book actually I think is still in print. You can get it over in Hong Kong. I got it over at a used bookstore. Moses is using this book, and in my opinion, it's actually pretty good. It's pretty good with which to bone up your vocabulary. And the nice thing is the conversations in here. It uses a Yale romanization system. The conversations in here are actually pretty reflective of how Cantonese people generally tend to speak. It's a language which is very Cantonese is a rather kind of confrontational language. That's the way I would sum it up. People tend to be rather kind of impatient. It reflects the rather hectic lifestyle of being in a big city. You know, sometimes the humidity can hit up to 100, 190. You know, I mean, 90 to 100 degrees in Hong Kong with humidity to boot. It's almost like living inside of an armpit. It's really, really, if you don't have AC, it's very, very unpleasant, as are most places, and you know, right on the equator. The good thing about this book is that it's extremely fast-paced, and it gives you the basics really, really, really quickly. It helps, though, to have a tone coach go over this with you, but fortunately, when you go out to Borders or Barnes & Noble or wherever you happen to purchase this thing, it comes with a CD, and the people who have the dialogues on it generally tend to be pretty, they're native Hong Kong speakers, so the tones that you get are actually, I mean, follow those tones closely and you'll be fine. So far, this actually happens to be one of my favorite books, because it's good to just kind of bone up on your Canton with this thing. So, you know, teach yourself. They're actually very good, not just in languages, but I mean, like math and science. And of course, the Venerable Sidney Lau. These are the advanced texts of advanced Cantonese. They can be bought directly, I think, from the Hong Kong Culture, Ministry website, and they're relatively they're easily procurable. This is it's really hard to say. This stuff actually starts to get pretty involved, and I wouldn't advise going on to these books until you've pretty well got the Teach Yourself book down pretty well. Once you can get this one down, you can more or less make your way through Hong Kong pretty comfortably. And people in oh crap, oh well, I'm not going to re-record this thing from the get-go. People in Hong Kong are pretty good at picking up English, and most of them speak English over there anyway. So, but of course, that's not really the name of the game. You want to be able to speak the language pretty well. So I just try not to use English if you can help it. Try and use Cantonese as best as you can over in Hong Kong and Macau. And if you happen to be over in San Francisco, they speak a brand of Cantonese which is really called Toi Sanwa, and it sounds different if you have a good ear than what is spoken in Hong Kong. The last book I want to show actually has nothing to do with Cantonese at all, but it really has to do with Shanghainese, or Zhangye for you Shanghainese people out there. My parents both came from Shanghai. Actually, my father came from Suzhou, which is reputed to have some of the most beautiful women. You know, they like to say these things. They're reputed to have some of the most beautiful women, and of course, was kind of like the culture and art center of ancient China a long time ago. You know, Wu China. But for me, Shanghainese to me is the most one of the most mellifluous dialects of Chinese, and it's actually been it's a goal of mine to actually improve mine as much as I can, because it's one of it's rather obscure dialect, a rather